parsha of Vayigash is a parsha, it's a sedra that brings in melancholy thoughts. Vayigash, Yankov and his family go to Galus. They go into exile, they go away from Eretz Yisrael, and they go to Mitzrayim, and the Galus of Mitzrayim begins. And the Sfarim gave a very interesting remez on Vayigash. For those who know Yiddish, Vayigash, Vav Yud Gimel Shin, is Weint jeden, Gewalt schreit, schreit Gewalt. In other words, weep, Jews, bewoe the condition. We're going to Galus. And the Gemara tells us that starting from 8 days in tevet started 3 days of darkness. Tonight is 8 days in tevet, 8 days in the month of tevet. Shabbos is the 9th day of tevet, and Sunday will be a tainus, a fast, a Sarah b'tevet. The 10th day of tevet, where the day that the king of Babel reached the city of Yerushalayim, and he surrounded the city and prepared to break through the wall and the fortresses that they had there. So therefore it's the beginning of the Churban, the beginning of the destruction, and it's a fast day. And in a certain way, it's more of a day of lamentation than any other day, because of the 4 days of lamentation, the 4 days of fasts that we have. Because if it would come out on Shabbos, we would have to fast on Shabbos also. Because the Pasuk says, "Be'etzem hayom hazeh samach melech Babel." In that very day of 10 days in tevet, the king of Babel laid siege to the city of Yerushalayim, and if the pasuk says "Be'etzem hayom hazeh," it can't be put off. Even Tisha B'av, if it comes out on Shabbos, is pushed away to Sunday. But Asara b'tevet says "Etzem hayom hazeh." It can be put on hold until we have the Shabbos first.
Does it ever come on Shabbos?
Nowadays it can't come on Shabbos, because we have a fixed calendar, and it can't come on Shabbos. But before the calendar was fixed by the Chacham Hillel, who was a grandchild of Rabbi HaKadosh, the calendar was not a fixed calendar, and every month the Sanhedrin, the Chachamim, got together and decided whether to make the month a Chasar or a Mali, whether it should be 29 days or 30 days. So then it could have come on Shabbos. So Now, so this is vayigash. The Sedra, where Yankov and his family leave Eretz Yisrael and they go into Galus. And on the 8th day of Tevet, something happened. The Torah was translated into Greek, and 3 days of darkness came down upon the world. Perhaps a darkness that with our eyes we wouldn't be able to perceive it. You know, there are certain things that are light and certain things that are dark. If we look at the Hanukkah candles, we see a light. And somebody who has a neshama, somebody whose soul isn't corroded, and he has contact, his mind has contact with the neshama, when he looks into the candles, he sees something there. Whether consciously or subconsciously, but he sees that it isn't a simple candle, it isn't a simple flame. There is something there in the Hanukkah candle. In the Shabbos candle, we see it. I'm sure that you would understand me if I would say that if on Wednesday night you're going to light a candle, and then on Friday night you're going to look at the Shabbos candles, you should be able to see that it's not the same candle. It's not the same flame. There's a certain heavenly warmth, a heavenly glow in that candle of Shabbos, or in that candle of Hanukkah. See, that's the big thing about Hanukkah. The big thing about Hanukkah is that we can transport the Shabbos into the weekdays. But there's something there. Now, in the present season, when we walk on the street and we see all the Gentile homes lit up with their lamps, and really, one should feel a real darkness coming out of them. It's darkness. You know, just like there is a Aya Haganas, a hidden light, that the one who is more or less pure to the extent that he is pure can perceive and he can behold that light. The same thing when you see those Xmas decorations, one who has a little purity himself should be able to behold the darkness that comes out of them. The Chayshach Haganus, the hidden darkness, as opposed to the Eir Haganus, the hidden light which is in the Shabbos and in the Hanukkah candles. So the Vayikra Elikim la'Oyer Yom v'la'Chayshach Kara la'Oyer. Oyer, light, that's Masayim Shel Tzadikim. The doings of the Tzadikim. That's light. That sheds light. Light is sweetness. Masayka Oyer la'Yinayim. The light is sweet to the eyes. And this is the doings of the Tzadikim. Tzadikim fabricate light by their doing their mitzvahs and ma'asim tovim. Chayshach elu masayim sharashayim, the Medrash says. Darkness, this is the doings of the Rashayim. And they fabricate darkness in the world. Darkness, melancholy, depression. That's what they fabricate with their averas. Teves, the month of Teves, is the darkest month in the year. The nights are the longest, the days are the shortest. And when the Chodesh Teves comes, not enough that the very fact that it's the season of darkness because the sun and the earth are in such a position that the night are the longest. It's also the number 10 always signifies. The Maral puts down this law. The number 10 always signifies the strong point of a certain thing when it reaches the number 10. Asara b'Teves, the 10th day of Teves, is the darkness of the darkness, because the Beis HaMikdash is light. The Gemara says that in Bava Basra, that the Beis HaMikdash is light, oil, light. And then the month of Teves, which is the month of darkness, so in the strong part of Teves, the 10th day of Teves, this light, which is the Beis HaMikdash, was extinguished and darkness came down. And this darkness actually started 3 days before. 8th day in Teves, the Torah was translated into Greek. Now, it requires a lot of Torah knowledge and insight into Torah to understand why it's dark. Somebody would say, on the other hand, it's very enlightening. The Torah was translated into Greek and was made available to everybody, to the Gentiles and to everybody. And they really did benefit from the Torah. They had the Bible, and that subsequently brought them to a certain degree of truth. I say a certain degree of truth. Certainly much. It certainly raised them much higher than before, when they worshipped the sun and the moon and idols and all that. But the fact is that the Torah being translated into Greek is like a Jew going from Eretz Yisrael into the Galus. The Torah went into the Galus. It went into Gentile territory. There is more to be said about this. Perhaps at a later time we will be able to elaborate on this. So 3 days of darkness came upon the world, and the Gemara and the Megillas Tainis, which is a set of braises which tell us certain things which occurred in certain dates, and the Gemara brings us down, tells us that on 8 days on Teves, which is tonight, the Torah was translated into Greek, and darkness came down on the world for 3 days. 9 days in Teves, something happened which isn't recorded. 10 days in Teves, the siege of Yerushalayim began. That's what Chazal tell us. There is a lot of speculation about what really happened on 9 days in Teves. And it's understood that it couldn't be recorded. Something happened, and we don't know what it was. It couldn't be recorded. That was the birthday of, I would call him Yuska, and of Eisai Ha'ish, who was born, and that day, when he was born on 25 days in December, when the Gentiles celebrate Xmas. So it came out on 9 days in Tevet. And this year it's a little earlier because it's a Shana Miyuberes. Usually Asara B'Teves and the Hanukkah season usually coincide with the Gentile days of festivity. They come together for reasons which I may explain next week. But this year, being that it's a Shana Miyuberes, it's a year of 13 months, and the moon is a little behind, and it's making an effort to catch up with the sun, and we're going to give it the chance of catching up with the sun when the Chodesh Adar comes, and we're going to give it a double Adar. This year is a pregnant year, a Shana Miyuberes. And this year is giving birth to a new Adar, to 2 days, 2 Chadashim, 2 months of Adar, 2 months of happiness. So therefore, this year Teves is a little behind. The lunar year is a little behind the solar year until it catches up. So the Chodesh Teves is a month of darkness, and this darkness is compounded by the fact that in the month of Teves we have 3 days of darkness, of special darkness, 8, 9, and 10 days in Teves. There are 12 months. There are 12 months, and these 12 months are assigned to the 12 Shvatim. Yehuda has Nisan, Yisachar has Iyar, and so on and so forth. And we'll generally assign the 12 months to the 12 Chadashim, to the 12 Shvatim, in the order of the Degalim, in the order of how they camped in the desert, in the Midbar. And therefore, they were the Jewish camp in the Midbar, the Degalim, were grouped into 4 groupings, the 4 Degalim. Each Degel, each flag, had 3 Shvatim to it. The last one is Dan, the Degel Machne Dan, the flag of Dan, the tribe of Dan, and and that was the grouping of the last 3 Shvatim, which corresponds with the last 3 months, Teves, Shvat, and Adar. So when the Chodesh Teves comes the month of Dan, the Shevet Dan. The month of Teves is the darkest of all the months. We have somewhat elaborated on this before, but I will just for our newcomer, because it has the longest nights and it has the tkufa in it, the
solstice. Winter solstice.
That's right. That's the longest night in the year when the season changes into the winter, and the Gentiles have their celebrations in that month. So this is the month of Teves, and the month of Teves is assigned to Dan. Dan is the most inferior of all the Shvatim. Rashi brings that by the Binyan HaMikdash that the ones who built up the Mishkan were Betzalel ben Ahaliyav from the Shevet Yehuda, and Betzalel ben Uri ben Chur from the Shevet Yehuda, and Ahaliyav ben Achisamach Lamati Dan. Yeah. So the ones who were in charge of building the Mishkan were Betzalel and Ahaliyav. Betzalel from the Shevet Yehuda and Ahaliyav from the Shevet Dan. So Rashi explains that Yehuda was the foremost of all the Shvatim, and Dan is the Yorud, the most inferior of all the Shvatim. So the Rabbeinu Shvatim put them together. Let the top Shevet with the most bottom Shevet work together on building the Mishkan. So Dan is the Yorud Shebeshvatim, Rashi calls him, which is the Lashon of Chazal, the lowest one of all the Shvatim. We find something in Dan which we don't find in any other Shevet. Every Shevet retained its purity in Mitzrayim. Now this is something which is just remarkable, most remarkable. Hundreds of thousands of Jews lived in Mitzrayim for 210 years under very difficult circumstances, under very difficult conditions. They were enslaved, and not one of them was guilty of any immorality. They kept their family purity. There was no assimilation of any kind. It was all because of the Kedusha, the holiness that Yosef has implanted in Mitzrayim. And there was one exception. One exception. There was Shleimis Bas Divri Lamatei Dan. There was one woman who had a certain, not such a wonderful experience with a Gentile, with a Mitzri, and not under conscious conditions. She wasn't aware of it. And she had a son who was the Ben Isha HaYisraelis, who was the son of the Jewish woman, but the Mitzri father, and he got into trouble in the Midbar. He cursed Hashem's name, and he was put to death. So there was only one case of incest, of any kind of immorality in Mitzrayim. And where did that happen? With whom did this happen? With the Shevet Dan. Being that they were at the lowest rung of Klal Yisrael, they were more susceptible to Ra, to evil, than any other Shevet. When the Jews crossed the Yam Suf, they were all Kedoshim and Tahirim, and they all went across with Amunah, with a perfect belief in God. There was one person who carried along an idol to worship, and that was Micha from the Shevet Dan. He brought along the Pesel Micha, the idol of Micha. He was from the Shevet Dan. After they crossed the Yam Suf, the Sea of Reeds, they started their voyage in the Midbar, and the Rabbeinu Shalom favored them with Anani Kavod, I wouldn't know exactly how to describe Anani Kavod, clouds of grandeur, clouds of glory were above them, which sheltered them from the heat of the sun, from rain, from many of the elements in the midbar. They were sheltered by the Anani Kavod. And we have a zeicher in memory of these Anani Kavod. We have the mitzvah of Sukkah, to remember that Rabbeinu Shalom sheltered us in his Anani Kavod. However, everybody was under the shelter of these Anani Kavod except those of the Shevet Dan who were spared out, they were repelled, neflaten from the Anani Kavod, they were repelled, they were expelled from under the Anani Kavod because they weren't worthy of being under the Anani Kavod of the Rabbeinu Shalom. Again, who are they? Done. In every Shevet, during the times of the Shoftim, during the times of the judges, after the Jews entered Eretz Yisrael, every Shevet had a Shofet. He had a judge who, at one period or another, was the savior of Klal Yisrael. He saved them and he protected them from the enemies who wanted to attack them. The one from Dan was Shimshon. Shimshon, the strong one. And by none of the Shvatim do we find anything that we could really criticize about their Shoftim. Shimshon, the Torah tells us, the Pasuk tells us very weird stories about him. These stories need explanation. Well, Shimshon had his affair with this Plishti girl, with that Plishti woman, and so on and so forth. And the Gemara tells us, Shimshon halach achar einav. Shimshon went after the temptation of his eyes. If he saw somebody beautiful, he was interested in her. Now, I put that in very coarse terms. When somebody who learns Torah the way it should be learned, finds out that there is much under the surface, and it can't always be seen on the surface. If you dig in the filthy parts of certain soils, you will find diamonds underneath. When we learn Torah Shebiksav, when we learn the psukim of the Torah, we can't take things for the face value. We have to dig and find out underneath. If we find that the Rabbeinu Shalom has appointed Shimshon to be the savior of Klal Yisrael, and he did wonderful acts, fascinating things with his strength, how he just tore a lion apart, how he and the other feats of strength which he did, and last but not least, when he was blinded by the by the Philistines, let's go to the Palestinians. I have that in mind every morning when I say Shamo Amam Yagazn Chil Achaz Yajve Pleshes. These are Palestinians. They should have their mapala through by the virtue of reciting these psukim. Anyway, so the last feat was that there were 3,000 Plishtim gathered in a big building with the galleries and the roofs, and he pushed the pillars, and the building came tumbling down, and he was killed together with the 3,000 Plishtim. Thomas Nafshi im Plishtim. I will die with the Plishtim together. Shimshon wasn't a simple person. We cannot take the psukim the way and understand them the way it seems on the surface. The Medrash tells us, and the Targum Yonason brings it, that next week's Sedra, that when Yankov Avinu, with his gaze of Ruach HaKodesh, as he looked through history, when he came to Shimshon, he thought Shimshon was Mashiach. Now Yankov Avinu wasn't an ordinary simple person. Yankov Avinu was never duplicated yet in Klal Yisrael. And when he saw Shimshon, he knew what he saw. And he wouldn't think that somebody who was a light-headed temptation pursuer would be the Mashiach of Klal Yisrael. He saw more than what our eyes saw. Yankov Avinu's gaze fell upon somebody who had the potential of Mashiach. How to explain these psukim and all those very fascinating but episodes which make us raise our brows? How to explain this? What about Shimshon's life? Well, we'll need a lot of time for that. Our Sfarim did explain a lot about it, but it isn't the way it looks on the surface. However, Shimshon halach achareinav. Shimshon was guided by the lust of what his eyes saw. Who are the eyes of Shimshon? The eyes of Shimshon, the Ari HaKadosh tells us that the 12 months of the year are corresponding to certain organs in the head, to 6 main organs in the head. There are the 6 months of Nisan, and then the 6 months which start with Tishrei. And the 2 eyes are tevet and Shvat. And in the summer months, the 2 eyes are Tammuz and Av. They're both months of destruction. And Shimshon had a certain relation with what is an eye. Shimshon halach achareinav. It's much deeper than it looks on the surface. And therefore Yankov Avinu was for a moment thinking, this is Mashiach. Until he saw that he fell. Until he saw that the building fell down upon him. And then Yankov Avinu said, I hope that you will send Mashiach, whoever he is. So, the 4 camps in the Midbar, the 4 groupings in the Midbar, the 4 Degallings, the 4 flag-bearing groups in the Midbar, the last one who went behind was Machne B'nai Dan, the group which was led by the Shevet Dan. And where was their position in the Midbar? Machne B'nai Dan Safayna Yisrael. They travel in the north. The Shvatim are that, Yehuda travels in the east, which means front, and each one of the 4 Degalim has its direction, its point where it is located in the Machne, and Machne b'nei Dan tzafayna yisahu. They are, that's a pasuk in Bamidbar, they travel towards, they are on the Tzafin side of the camp. Tzafin is north. The sun never shines in the north. If anybody has windows which are directed towards the north, well, the sun will never come in through those windows, because that's the dark part of the four directions. And in the south, if somebody has a sudden exposure, then of course he'll have sunshine all day. The other two exposures have for part of the day and not for the other part of the day. But the northern exposure will never have any sunlight coming in, because even in the day there is a certain side of the house which has a certain relation with darkness, and that's the Tzafin, the north. And Dan is corresponding, and he is assigned to the Chodesh Tevet, to the dark month, and he is also Tzafina, in the dark side. It seems that Dan and darkness are just indivisible. They are together. Wherever there is darkness, you're going to find Dan. In this Sedra, which is the Sedra which we usually learn in the time of Asara B'Teves, when the 3 days of darkness come, in this Sedra, the Yidden go down to Mitzrayim. Darkness reigns, darkness prevails, the Galus begins, and Hashem has to comfort Yankov Avinu and tell him, Al tira me'adam Mitzrayim. Don't be afraid of going down to Mitzrayim. I am going down with you, and I'm going to come up back with you, as the pasuk says. Now, so our Sedra, the Sedra of Yeridas Mitzrayim, the beginning of the Galus, tells us that 70 souls of the household of Yankov descended to Mitzrayim. If you count them, you will find 69. Who is the 70th? So Chazal tell us several versions. One of them is Chushem ben Dan. Chushem, the son of Dan, he is the one that completed the total of 70. Chushem, the son of Dan. With Chushem, the son of Dan, the Medrash tells us an interesting little story. When Yankov Avinu was brought back to Eretz Yisrael to be buried there, there came Esav, and he said, I have a part in the Ma'aras HaMachpelah. I want my part. I am heir equal to Yankov. We're both sons of Yitzchak, and I have a portion of the Ma'aras HaMachpelah. And of course, Esav has no business being in the Ma'aras HaMachpelah. He would contaminate it by his being there. So, but the truth is that Yankov already has bought off Esav's part in the Ma'aras HaMachpelah, and he even had a document of sale to prove that. But that document of sale was left back in Mitzrayim. They didn't expect that all of a sudden Esav is going to emerge, I want my part, and perhaps trying to deceive the Shvatim, being that the father is dead, and they may not know about the sale of Esav's part to Yankov. But the Shvatim didn't know that Yankov bought off, because Yankov made it very clear, Shakerisili, I bought it off, and I have the deed. So Naphtali was a very swift runner, and Naphtali just ran off to Mitzrayim to get the deed. And everybody was waiting there for Naphtali to return. Husham ben Dan was deaf and dumb. And he didn't know what's going on. And he asked, in his way, of course, why is it that we're waiting? Why don't they proceed with burying Yankov Avinu? So they told him that Esav is contesting our ownership of the Maros Machpelah, and we're waiting for Naphtali to return. So Husham said, what? Because if Esav's grandfather Yankov can't be buried? And Husham ben Dan just walked over to Esav and knocked off his head. And that head came rolling down into the Maros Machpelah. This is a very interesting point which needs a lot of explanation. Esav didn't belong to the Maros Machpelah, but his head did belong there. There are Geirim coming from Esav, and they're vested in the head, and they belong to the Maros Machpelah. The intellectual part of Esav's heart doesn't belong to the Maros Machpelah. Esav's head does belong there. and he killed Esav. Going back to our Medrash, which we mentioned before, Husham ben Dan was the one who completed the total of 70, of the 70 souls who went down to Mitzrayim. Now, there is something which is signified by this. Husham ben Dan was the 70th. By saying that he is the 70th, it means that he's the last one. And it is very unique, and it is very appropriate for Husham ben Dan to be the last one, because he comes from the last tevet. The Dan is the last tevet. That means the last of the Degalim. In fact, only was done the last of the Degalim, but he actually was the last tevet, because in the traveling in the Midbar, Dan was Dan was a very numerous tevet, and they trailed all the way behind. Even though he was the chief of the last group, but he found himself actually behind everybody else also. And being that he was actually behind, these are the ones who were expelled from the Anani Kaveh. They were left behind. They are the Nachshalim, they are the ones that Amalek had some kind of a right to do harm to them, because of the Avodah Zarah that was with them. And Husham ben Dan was the last one. We already, I think, the previous session have explained that whatever you find in place, in space, you will find that it corresponds with something in time. And if the place of done is last, so he corresponds to the last period of the history of Klal Yisrael in the Golus. And so Husham ben Dun is last. Who is Husham ben Dun? He is deaf and dumb. That's us. I want to introduce ourselves. We're all Husham ben Duns. We're all deaf and dumb. We're all dumb. Dumb means a person who can't talk. A person who can go into a restaurant and say, "Give me a dish of potatoes with whatever he's going to order," that's not talk. Talking about politics, that's not talk. You know what talk is? The purpose for which Hashem gave us this ability to talk to the Rabbeinu Shalom, to daven, to pray, to learn Torah. We can talk and talk and talk, but our generation is mute. We can't talk. We're dumb. And then there is an ability to hear. Hearing doesn't mean listening to the radio or listening to an opera, to say the least, or listening to nonsense, or listening to Lashon Hara. Listening means listening to something for which the ears were created, for the purpose that Rabbeinu Shalom gave us certain perception that all the other members of the family of creatures in this world don't. We listen to Divrei Torah. We listen. Shema Yisrael al Chukim v'al Mishpat. Shema Yisrael Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad. Hazinu Hashemayim v'adabeira v'sishma ha'aretz imrei fi. To listen to the word of God, to listen to Divrei Torah. We are all deaf as we compare ourselves to the generations before. We're all Husham ben Duns. And just like Dun, during the voyaging of the Jewish camp in the Midbar, Husham, the Shevet of Dun, was trailing behind, and they were the Nechshalim. They were the ones who lingered behind, and they were left out of the Anani Kavod because they were at the end. They were the Nechshalim. So we are all at the end of the history of the Jewish nation in its present era, before the Yemaisa Mashiach. We're the Shevet Dun. Our being, our existing in our generation today means that we're existing in a period of tevet. For us, our entire life is a perpetual tevet. We're all in the dark, we're all dumb, we're all deaf, we're all Husham ben Dun. We belong to Dun. And Husham ben Dun signifies our generation today, the end, the last one, the 70th, the very last one. There is an Aleph base. Aleph stands for the Rabbeinu Shalom, Alufay Shel Olam, the one and only of the world. Aleph means one. Beis already is There's plurality. 2. On Monday, the second day, that's when the Gehenna was created, that's when Machlaikas came. It causes the number 2. Then comes the rest of the other days, all the way down into the last ice, the tough. The tough, the Sfarim explain, already is going out, and it's protruding from the machane of the Aleph Beis. The tough, the last ice of the Aleph Beis, has a shoe, right? The point of the shoe is already out of the machane. It goes into the realms of the Tumah, of the Sitra Achra, the Rosh Hashanah, about which we spoke about before Hanukkah. This tough, perhaps I would say that the shoe of the tough represents the Shevet Dan. Just like the Shevet Dan was part of the Jewish camp, and the very end of the camp is out of the realms of Kedusha, out of the Sukkah, out of the Prisas Sukkah Sholem, and it goes into the outside, into the territory where Amalek has the power over it, because it's his territory. The Tuf stands for Dan. The shoe of the Tuf, which goes outside, that's the part of the Aleph Beis which is niflat min ha-machne. It's expelled from the machne. Now, what is a Tuf? There are remarkable seidos, very remarkable findings that we can find if we study the Isis, if we study the anatomy of every ice in the Aleph Beis. The Tuf consists, the Sfarim tell us, of 2 Isis. The Heichel Abracha says that on his Pirush on the Megillah. The Tuf is a Dalet on top, right? And at the end of the Tuf we have a Nun, right? You can cut the Nun off from the Tuf, and you can have a Dalet and a Nun. And lo and behold, you have done. So what? Who says there has to be a langer Nun? We have 22 Isis of the Aleph Beis, and this is the Nun, the Dalet and the Nun. The langer Nun has no shoe. The langer Nun never goes into Chutz L'machne, never goes out of the Prisas Sukkah Shalem. The langer Nun is one of the Isis of Geula, of redemption, unlike the plain Nun. Anyway, so it's very interesting. Who has been the arch enemy of Klal Yisrael all during our Golus? It has been Amalek, Esav. Amalek, who comes from Esav. Now, the entire history of Klal Yisrael, starting from Yankov Avinu, was a steady, perpetual combat with Esav. Who chopped off Esav's head? Husham ben Dan. Who is going to be the victor over Esav? Who is going to deliver the head of Esav as the victorious Klal Yisrael, who Saf Kol Saf, who at the end really did do away with our arch enemy Esav, our generation, the generation which is in the dark, the generation of tevet, which has the shoe in the Rosh Hashanah, the generation which is expelled from the Ananei Kavod. We are expelled. We are an expelled generation. We don't have the glory. We don't have the kavod that previous generations had. You know, when I was a youngster and I was able to talk to my grandmother, she was able to tell me stories, wonderful stories of what tzaddikim did, miracles, things supernatural, revelations that people had with the dibukim and other such things, and they saw the Yeshuas, how tzaddikim actually can virtually make dead people alive. They saw these things. We don't have these things. We don't see. We are a generation of emunah. We have to believe. We, as opposed to the way a guy would say, we don't say seeing is believing. We say not seeing is believing. Because those who saw didn't have to believe, they perceive. We don't see. Every generation has its Messiah. Our generation is emunah. We have to believe without seeing. Because emunah, belief, faith, is the yesod. It's a foundation of Judaism. And we are the foundation of other generations. Where is the foundation of a building? On the bottom. We're at the bottom. And it has been explained in Sfarim that everything before us is depending on us. We are responsible. We bear the entire history which precedes us. We bear upon our weak and our weak shoulders. We're carrying history. We are responsible for the fulfillment of the mission of Klal Yisrael. We have to give it the finishing touch. And without the finish, nothing is worth. This is our generation. We are a generation of return. Never in the history of Klal Yisrael, since the Golus, did the Jews return like they return today. Because it's the month, it's the season of Dun. And Dun has a special mission. You have that in the Sedre Bahaloischa. Dun is Ma'asei Flachal HaMachanais. He has to gather together all the Machanais. He has to gravitate them back to the Rabbeinu Shalom. This is the mission of our generation. And we, with our feeble shoulders, we carry the whole globe upon us, like this mythical figure who's supposed to carry the globe. And we carry the whole globe upon us, the whole history of Klal Yisrael and of the world. We are the ones who are going to fulfill the wish and the prayers and the ultimate geula, which is the wish and the prayers for which all the previous generations worked with our feeble shoulders. So therefore, we are the ones who are killing Esav, who are going to deliver his head to the Melech HaMashiach. How do we kill Esav? Because we combat the Yetzer Hara under such very difficult conditions. It's hard for us. We are subjected to the most demanding nisyonos. Nobody had it the way we have. Nobody had it in generations before that people should be subjected to such Yetzer. I remember when I was a boy, and it was a hot August afternoon, 97 degrees, and somebody would venture to walk out into the street with a T-shirt, he wouldn't last 5 minutes without being arrested for disorderly conduct. Today, all right, I won't say, you know the rest. We are subjected to such nisyonos. Mamish like Yosef Atzadik. Ma yasa haben shelo yachta. What could we do that we shouldn't sin? We are exposed to the worst Yetzer, to the worst temptations, and we were released from the ghetto, and we rub shoulders with the Goyim, and we have to remain Jews, and we have to remain believing in the Rabbeinu Shalom and be observant Jews, and we're doing a very good job. And when we fall through, and sometimes when we are unsuccessful and we fall, we can't really blame ourselves too much. The Gemara says, if somebody goes and he takes his son and he feeds him a good meal, and he gives him and he wines him with the best wine, and he clothes him with the most beautiful attire, and he perfumes him, and he places him right at the door of a house of Zionis, of immoral women. So the Gemara exclaims, Ma yasa haben shelo yachta. What could the son do that he shouldn't sin? You're asking the impossible from him. When a generation like ours do mitzvahs, when we learn Torah, when we daven, when we combat our temptations, and while we see everybody around ourselves being gratified by fulfilling all their lusts and all their desires, and we say, no, I'm Jewish, I'm not doing it, Hashem won't approve of it, and we deprive ourselves of what we're being offered. We're so chashiv, we're so commended by Hashem more than the previous generations before us, who actually did much bigger things than us. The Yuska says that. On the other hand, what happens if somebody chas v'shalom falls through and he falls down? He can just stand up, brush off his pants, and say, Rabbeinu Shalom, what do you want from me? Ma yasa haben shelo yachta. I was subjected to something which was too strong, which was too powerful for me. Of course, a person should never use this before an Aveira, but after an Aveira, if chas v'shalom he did fall through, he can find consolation in the fact that he can justify himself. If somebody can come to the judge and plead insanity, we can come to the judge of the world and say, we are shikar, we are intoxicated, we are drugged. What do you want from us, Rabbeinu Shalom? We're a lucky generation. The good things we do, we're getting a lot of credit for it. The bad things we do, don't kid yourself, you're going to be punished for it. But we'll get off easy. because not too much can be expected from our generation. We are done, and we are expelled from the Ananei Kavod, from all the protections of Kedusha, of holiness, and Tahara, and purity, which the generations before us enjoyed and benefited from. And we are the ones who are going to deliver the head of Esav to Mashiach. Here, Mashiach, we brought Mashiach, not those celebrated generations of Gedolim and Kedoshim who lived before us. We're the ones who did this feat. So actually, we find ourselves in a long, long tevet. We find ourselves in years and years of 3 days of darkness, which start tonight. And the Rabbeinu Shalom, the Rav Chasdei, with his big chesed and favor and loving kindness, which he showers upon us, gave us a Chanukah, that he gave us a light, he gave us a candle in our hands. With this Chanukah, traverse the tevet, traverse the expanses of darkness with the light of Chanukah. You should know that Rabbeinu Shalom is there 10 tefachim underneath, with you in the dark. And this is the message of Vayigash, that it was the 70th, the last, the Chushim Ben Dan, whose camp travels in the Tzafin, where there is no light. He is the one who killed Esav. He beheaded him. Now, there is another version in the Medrash, one which Rashi brings down in our Chumash this week. Who was the 70th? If we count the names of the ones who descended to Mitzrayim, we're going to find 69. And the Pasuk says that there were 70. So Rashi says, this is also from the Medrash, it was Yocheved, the mother of Moshe Rabbeinu. So why isn't she mentioned among the 70? So Rashi answers, she was Noyolada Bein HaChaimes. She was born as between the walls of the gates of Mitzrayim. So she can be mentioned among the 70 who left Eretz Yisrael, because she wasn't born in Eretz Yisrael yet. You can't say that she's not among the 70, because when we entered Mitzrayim, she was there already. She was born at the mezuzah of Eretz Yisrael, going out of Eretz Yisrael and entering into Mitzrayim. If the Torah Kedosha tells us that Yocheved was Noilada Bein HaChaimes, that when they entered Mitzrayim, at the gates of Mitzrayim, there's something to it. Why, of all things, was she born while the wagon just passed through the gates of Eretz Yisrael entering Mitzrayim? Why was she born then? Well, the Medrash tells us an interesting thing in Eicha. Atbash. There is an aleph base which is called Atbash. We take the aleph base and we write it downwards. Aleph base, Gimel, David, Hey, Vav, Zayin, Ches, Tes, Yud, Kaf. Kaf is the center. Alongside with the Kaf, we put the Lamed, and then we go upwards. Mem, Nun, Samach, Ayin, Pei, Tzad, Kuf, Chei, Shin, Taf. so that the Tuf is now alongside the Aleph, and that the Beis is alongside the Shin, and the Gimel is alongside the Reish. Am I understood? So we call this Atbash, Aleph Tuf Beis Shin. This is an Aleph Beis. And so among other things which this Aleph Beis teaches us is the Seder of the Mayadim, of the festivals. Because Pesach is Reish Kol Mayadais. It's the head of all the Mayadim. The Aleph stands for the first day of Pesach. And the Tuf is Tisha B'Av. In other words, last year, the first day of Pesach was on Shabbos. So Tisha B'Av came out on Shabbos. The Beis on the Bash is the second day of Pesach, which was Sunday. So next is Shin, Shavuos. Shavuos came out on Sunday. The Gimel is the third day of Pesach, which was Monday. And it's next to the Reish, which is Rosh Hashanah. And so on and so forth. Going back to the beginning, the first day of Pesach tells us when Tisha B'Av is. So the Medrash says, His Beyani B'Mrayrim Hilvani La'ana. Rabbeinu Shloim gave me Morayah, and he gave me La'ana. La'ana is some kind of a very bitter kind of herb, which we can, which signifies Tisha B'Av. The first day of Pesach dictates when Tisha B'Av is going to be. What does that mean? It means that Tisha B'Av is rooted in Pesach. Pesach is Geula. Tisha B'Av is Galus. In other words, where are the roots of the Galus in the Geula? You cannot have Galus unless it's rooted in Geula, unless it stands alongside with Geula. A Jewish Galus, a Jewish fall, will never exist unless it also has at its side the rising of the fall. The Rabban Shalom won't send us off to Galus unless we already have the Geula prepared. So really, Aleph is the first ice of the Aleph base, and it's alongside the Tuf. Aleph is Nisan, Yehuda, and it's alongside the Tuf. It's alongside Tisha B'Av, which has its leg, it's done into the Rosh Hashanah, into the domains where Amalek has his influence there. So this is what this Adbash signifies. When Klal Yisrael went to Galus, the family of Yankov went into Mitzrayim. Their one foot, as they went through the gates, one foot was in Eretz Yisrael, and the other foot already stepped into Mitzrayim. Right? It was at that moment, when one foot was in Eretz Yisrael, and the other foot already entered Mitzrayim, that Yocheved was born. She is the mother of Geula. She is the root of Geula. Her son is Moshe Rabbeinu. The Galus cannot start without the Redeemer already being prepared. And she is the 70th one. And this is all told to us in the Seder of Vayigash. When Yidden go down to the Galus in the Seder of Vayigash, where you already have Parshas Bay prepared, that Moshe Rabbeinu was taking the Jews out of Mitzrayim. The Tisha B'Av is preparing the Pesach, because Pesach has dictated the occurrence of Tisha B'Av. It all goes together. Going back to Dun. Well, among the 70, there are really two corresponding, as I mentioned before, the 6 months of that start with Nisan corresponds with the 6 months that start with Tishrei. And the 2 eyes are Tammuz and Av, and in the winter months, the 2 eyes are Tevet and Shvat, the dark months. In a way, Tevet and Shvat is worse than Tammuz and Av. But they are going to be elevated. They are going to rise. There's a lot of good, there's a lot of gems hidden in these days. And Yocheved was hidden Bein HaChaim. Yocheved was born Bein HaChaimes. Who was the 70th? Yocheved. So when the Tana in the Medrash said this halacha, so the other Tana who listened said, you have such a margulis, you have such a pearl, and you kept it till now? This is a pearl. That Yocheved was born by Nachaimis and she is the 70th. What's this pearl? Why is it a pearl? The answer is, where do you find a pearl? In the depths of darkness. When the Galus begins, you find the pearl of Geula. When we read the Seder of Vayigash, auf Weins Yiden Gewalt schreit, that's when we find the Geula. This is the Magalas, the pearl that in the depths. These dark days, we're actually diving down to pick up pearls, something which the previous generations didn't have. They never went down to such depths to find such treasures. This is a pearl. This is a Magalas. And there was one culprit among the 70 souls who went down to Mitzrayim. They're all named. All the 69 are named. And who is one of the 69? These are Eile Shmeis B'nai Yisrael Abba Mitzrayim and B'nai Shemain, the sons of Shemain. Shemain and Dan are related because Shemain is the 4th month of the Nisan months, Nisan, Iyar, Sivan, and Tammuz. So in the Degalim you have Yehuda, Yisachar, Zvulun. No, he's a 5th month rather. He's Av, where the Churban took place. Shimon is connected Av, the 5th one. So Shemain is connected Av. And there was the Nasi of Shemain. We find we can't say too many favorable things about him. Really we could, but on the surface not. What's his name? V'sha'u ben Hakna'anis. Where is this? Ubenei Sheman Yemur v'yam avoyet v'sarcha v'sha'u ben Hakna'anis, and Sha'u the son of the Kna'anis. Who is Sha'u ben Hakna'anis? So I'll take a look at the Targum Yonasan, and the Targum Yonasan will tell me that Sha'u, who Zimri, he is a Zimri, the Yavad Oivda the Chnanoi b'Shitim, that he did what the Knanim did in Shitim. We find a parallel between Sha'u and Shleimus Bas Divri. he sinned in the midbar with a Gentile woman, a daughter of the king of Midian. He is Shol ben a Knanis, and that's why he's called ben a Knanis. He did something which is fitting for a Knani, Shol. Now, with this I'm going to finish off that every Chaydesh is connected to one of the Shemais of the Shem Havaya, one of the combinations of the name of Hashem, Yudke Vavke. I think you once talked about this, right? Now, and every one of them has a pasuk from which that Shem comes out. The foremost and first one is Yehuda, which we learn out from the pasuk Yismechu Hashemayim v'Sagir Ha'aretz. Yismechu Hashemayim v'Sagir Ha'aretz is the Shem Hashem straight, which is in all its glory, in all its light, in all its geula, in all its happiness. Yismechu Hashemayim starts with Yud Kei. The Sagel Ha'aretz is Vav Kei, right? Yud Kei Vav Kei, the Shem straight. And every Chaydesh has a pasuk that the Sfarim tell us that the tziruf, the combination of that Chaydesh, is derived from that pasuk. Tevet is Gadlu Hashem iti u'narayma mashma yachdav. And being that it's a Chaydesh of Midas Adin, we won't have it in the Rasha Tevis, but we're going to have it in the Sefer Tevis at the end of these four words. Lashem iti u'narayma mashmai. Lashem ends with a hey, iti ends with a yud, u'narayma ends with a hey, and shmai with a vav. That is one of the combinations of the Shem Yud Kei Vav Kei. That's the Chaydesh that's the tziruf of the Chaydesh of Teves, right? Now these are the Seifei Teves. Well, if that's the Seifei Teves, let's be curious. What are the Rasha Teves? Iti u'naraymem shmai Lashem iti u'naraymem shmai. The Rasha Teves is Shaul. That's Shaul ben Aknanis. In other words, he is the culprit who reminds us in Dun. And what do we do with him, with this Shaul? Gadlu Lashem iti u'narayma mashma yachtav. Let us give glory to Hashem u'narayma mashma yachtav, and all together we're going to give splendor to Hashem's name. We'll raise and elate Hashem's name. In other words, all these Sha'uls of today's generation, all these Shimshons of today's generations, whether they're rooted in Dun, which is Teves, the dark Teves, or whether they're rooted in Av, the tough, the destructive Chaydish Av, wherever they're rooted, don't let those Sha'uls and don't let those Chushims, don't let those deaf, mute, and dumb people and those shows, those sinful people, think that they fell to the floor and that's where they're going to remain. No, they're going to be raised from the floor. Hashem is going to come and pick them up. Gadlu Hashem iti u'narayma mashma yachtav. There are a lot of gems hidden in this Chaydish of Teves, which the tziruf comes out from the pasuk Gadol Hashem iti u'narayma mashma yachtav. All Jews are going to be partners and all together in unison and in chorus are going to join when they do tshuva, when they just disregard their past and they're not silly enough to let their past give them feelings of guilt that they don't belong in this chorus who praise and elate the name of Hashem. Let all of these Jews Gadol el Hashem iti. Who says this pasuk? Moshe Rabbeinu. Moshe Rabbeinu says, with me together, let's all join. All these shows get up. All those who are in the Rashi Tevis of this tziruf of Teves, who are down, who are the pearls, who are immersed and who are all the way down in the depths of the Mitzulos Yam, in the dark and the dark unfathomed depths of the ocean. Let them all rise together, and all together are all going to contribute together to the splendor of Hashem, as we are going to see it with all its light and with all its brightness, when the darkness of Teves is going to be transformed into a perpetual day and into a Yom Shekulei Shabbos, and everybody who has a Yiddish neshama will come back and is going to be admitted into the Anani Kavod, and the Tuf will be included under the Prisa Sukkah Shalom of the Kadosh Baruch Hu with his shoes, and we're all going to praise the name of Hashem together. And that's what Teves is all about, to find the diamonds, the gems in Teves, notwithstanding the